the worst thing is there are some really shocking videos where you can perhaps witness death of a person firsthand as they see it first person, which is definitely not something that we have ever seen. So absolutely, this is a very, very unique and interesting conflict in that regard, but also extremely shocking and concerning.
Where are I suppose, the main focal points or flashpoints of the conflict?
Yeah, I believe we are sort of quite likely we're approaching somewhere around the midterm, I believe. I think we are still very much far away from the end of it. And depending on how you interpret various events happening right now, this, in my opinion, may end, I believe it's unlikely to end this year. Frankly speaking, but this can go for many, many years, just with the intensity sort of varying between different phases of the war. But ultimately, we're probably in this for a long run.
In terms of what you observe and the material that you look at, you're probably in actually a really helpful position to sort of assess morale, even among troops. Is that something you can give us an insight on?
Well, there's definitely still, I believe, I speak to people in Ukraine as well. There's definitely very, very strong morale on the Ukrainian side, that's for sure. And they're ready for everything. They're ready for everything that is happening with them in terms of, missile strikes and not having access to even the basic needs such as electricity and warmth very often. When it comes to the Russian side, obviously, this is a more difficult question. Reading the source materials, you might believe that everything's going well, and they do seem to be quite motivated still, at least the sources that tend to share their opinions online. So, as I said, we're still very much in this sort of unclear phase at the moment.
What has caught you by surprise in terms of what you are seeing and hearing?
Well, it's been going on for quite a while, so there are quite a few things that caught me by surprise. But obviously, it is this sort of, I guess, the intensity from both sides. And this is something I've known for a while, that there was this animosity between them, and it's been going on for quite a few years, if not decades. But the fact that it's still ongoing and it's getting, what I would call maybe even crazier every day, the intensity is actually still growing. So this is something that is definitely to keep an eye on.
Okay. You mentioned the sort of Russian soldiers. In fact, actually, just on the idea of soldiers uploading this content, we've reflected before that this is probably a war like no other, in that is what is happening. That soldiers have their phones, they're filming things, they're almost filming updates, they're filming almost vlog style videos of what is going on the front line. It's almost quite an odd concept that is what's happening.
Yes, indeed. And if you even look at the conflict of 7 years ago, like in Syria, for example, where you could say that we had access to this technology to a certain extent, it was still not covered as extensively as this one. But this one, every single soldier, as you said, has access to a phone, to a camera, to a GoPro, that they are very often, they have to put them on and wear them to make sure they're recording everything. And the worst thing is there are some really shocking videos where you can perhaps witness death of a person firsthand as they see it first person, which is definitely not something that we have ever seen. So absolutely, this is a very, very unique and interesting conflict in that regard, but also extremely shocking and concerning.
How the material that you're reviewing, how it affects you?
Well, I would say that I'm quite strong morally. So obviously there are some materials that I'm finding quite hard to look at, but generally speaking, since I always, say I'm not the person out there and filming this, so they are the ones that must be finding it the hardest, and therefore I can take this, and this is sort of my sort of moral responsibility, I would say, to be strong in this regard. But there's definitely some footage that I don't really enjoy watching.